So
No problem.
here I am.
No problem.
So I'm just starting our streaming. I just need another minute. Okay, and that is now working. And Helen, as Vice President, I believe you'll be running the meeting.
Okay, and I do think that I am on the board until December the 31st.
Thank you.
I'm only saying that because there may be some unfinished business that can still yet be done, but I don't know that that's the case. I will call the meeting to order, and the time is 5:42. Christina, is that?
Yes.
Got it.
Chris.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm thinking of who's taking the minutes. Christina, isn't?
Kristen offered to take the minutes for the board tonight.
I'm trying to get the right,
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's very good. We have the consent agenda. I will jump to that because to my knowledge, we have no visitors. So I'm asking for a motion to accept the consent agenda unless someone has some exception to the way it's presented.
I do
have
have
no exceptions. Oh, go ahead. Somebody does.
Yep. David, do you want to jump in?
Well, I was just gonna, it might be a moot point because we don't have Jay here as well, but I was hoping to just kind of feel out the board to see if there was any willingness or openness to adjusting the schedule. In the past, it kind of sounded like there could be, but there were members that had made plans like 6 months in advance, which, oofta, that's beyond me. But just depending on how county committee assignments go, I had conflicts in the past, and I'm hoping to maximize my impact while I'm on the board.
So I'm not clear what you're asking us to do, Dave.
Would you like that added to the agenda for today?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then Helen, I did want to ask, I put in the personnel committee that we have a need to meet for the director's 1-year review, and that's actually not correct. That's a February thing. I got my dates messed up. So that could come out.
Well, but that is important because Chris and I, who are on the personnel for the review of the director currently, and it was my opinion we were doing the 6 months. But then when I saw that, you said annual, I thought, well, I guess we're working on that. But that actually is the way I originally understood it. Actually on the anniversary of your year as director. Okay. We don't need to add that to the agenda, but for Chris and me, it's very helpful to know what we're doing and have that straightened out. So we have two alterations to the agenda. One is to add the discussion of how we would schedule that might allow Dave to be more impactful on the committees on the boards that he wishes to work on or gets assigned to work on. And the other is a correction that how did you want to say that, Amanda? Oh, she said, okay. Okay.
Do you want to schedule the 6-month review? We'll just change it from 1 year to 6 month.
Yes, that would be great. Okay, and then that correction. Now, Chris, I'm ready for you. You were going to.
I move that we approve the rest of the consent agenda, and yeah, I'll move that.
As corrected? As
corrected,
updated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think probably Kristen can come up with the right word there. Okay, then we'll have a roll call.
Thank you.
Well, I'll second it.
I need a second. I'm sorry, Dave. I do need a second. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, with a roll call then. Sue?
Aye.
Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Helen, I'm an aye also. So the agenda is set. Did you have, okay, I'm at a loss here for those bills. Do they get a separate recognition? Amanda, do I need a motion on the bills?
The bills are included in the consent agenda and you can move on.
Okay, well, and my question is, we don't have to worry because they're on different setup has been made so that there's no one to sign. We don't need to sign the bills. That's really why I had the question, is because there's something that's happening along there that's different. Okay, then, Chris, do you have a report for the library friends?
Yes, the library friends met, the board met, and we approved all of the grant applications. So the checks either have gone out or will be going out any minute. And we're just very excited to be able to have funded all the requests. So to the tune of about $4,500. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful too. And I'm wondering, would there be a possibility of maybe having a little written report that Amanda would have that she could send out to everyone in the board saying who got what and what they wanted to do with it? I think that
Yes,
would be.
The friends are trying to do their own publicity over these grants. And so as soon as I see that appear, I can share it with you folks as well.
Okay. Okay. So, and just to make it official to be to be in the minutes for, or in the record for the library board, it isn't because we want more credit or anything like that, or more publicity. I think it's wonderful that the friends are doing their own and establishing themselves as a separation between the library board and the friends board, because that has in the past been a kind of a misunderstood relationship. And so I think that is great, but because we do encourage and see the friends as a partner with the board, it would be nice for them to recognize what you are doing for the community. And that, okay.
We'd be glad to let you know as soon as we officially know ourselves. So yes.
That's great.
I will follow up on that and follow up on the two groups working together as well.
Okay, thank you. The ALS report, I have so many things that are new and exciting that I won't pick all of them. One of them is playing off of what Amanda had in her, now I have to find the director's report here in front of me, the one she sent out. One that she sent out was about the libraries and what their current situation is. And I thought statistically it was rather interesting that when libraries closed for COVID, we had 10 or so that were open, but at the present time, this information is dated December the 2nd, and there are about a half of those 10 that are currently still open. Most of them are using curbside. When I say that, I don't think there is a library in the ALS system that isn't using some form of a curbside means of circulation. The amount of circulation is another point. Is Amanda reported to us last month that there was a decrease in everyone's circulation, but the data, I don't know if that works. Maybe that works. Excuse me. What I want to report in regard to the circulation is that not all of the libraries that were open had a greater percentage of circulation. Amanda was shoot. I forgot to put it back on the base. Which I think is pretty interesting. Like Baudette, which is one what was open, it got about 3/4 of the circulation that he had last year. Calumet was about the same. Carlton was about like everybody else, it was about half. And Gilbert's circulation was down about 3/4. So it didn't, if you were open, it didn't mean that your circulation was necessarily better than some of the others that didn't have that, which I thought was pretty interesting. Evelyn expected to open on December the 1st, and if this is December the 2nd, it doesn't register as being open. And then another thing that that Amanda has in her report is the ALS member public libraries have it has to do with continuing education and meetings. Well, checking what I had at our ALS meeting on Thursday, it comes out that the Grand Marais Public Library has had more continuing education and campus meetings than any other library in ALS.
Yay.
So that except for the Duluth Library, which means that Amanda is doing one well of a job getting her people up to, with the current things and the coordination with ALS. I think those are probably, well, there is a wonderful grant. It's a construction grant that came through the legislature, which those of us who are advocacy minded are very interested whenever we find out there's money going to the libraries. It's the state, and it's over 2 million. Somewhere here I've got the exact amount, but the library, the ALS board was so excited about it, and they were well, I cannot, with my wimpy mind here, I can't remember. They're sending a letter to, maybe I'll get it, Mary Murphy. They're sending a letter in appreciation because she has been a rooter behind this. And these construction grants are, if you have anything in mind that it would be construction, and I think that probably the library could look into this. The deadline of it will be around the end of June. And I'm wondering, Amanda, have you had any input with that in regard to, I know the legacy people are already sending in their suggestions of what they want to do with their $3,000. But I don't know if construction means the housing of the building or whether construction means something outside. I didn't get that.
Not sure if we're talking about two separate things. The legacy programming funds is for an art project up to $3,000 for our library, since we already have the puzzle tree. That one I think is a great match for the sidewalk poetry installation project.
Right. I didn't mean to, and excuse me for walking, but I didn't mean that one shouldn't go through. But I don't know that if when they talk about construction, if you know whether that means it has to be interior, like for instance, when we were working on the nursing opportunity for or that, whether that sort of thing would be in, and or whether we have something that is handicap access in any way outside in regard to like our double doors whenever we have to have an exit. And we were we talked about that in the past too. But I leave that up to you to find out whether it has any, whether that construction would be limited to our what, we're not going to put another addition onto the library. It's not going to be a big thing of that nature, but maybe there's a construction in regard to the youth area. Maybe there's, maybe there's something. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a big project. In fact, Jim Weekam said that just rearranging your cabinetry, the kind of cabinetry, so you have better access between aisles and so forth of that nature. So it's really has more opportunity than maybe first flush would suggest, like that.
Great.
I saw your eyes light up. It looks like you
So,
could
and I think the construction grant is completely separate, right? It's state money.
Uh-huh.
So in 2021, I have no plans for doing any kind of internal restructuring or external aside from that sidewalk, although I think I'm pretty excited about the legacy funding being a part of that if we qualify for our timeline and whether the project gets done based on the Highway 61 timeline.
Right.
But it's definitely something I'd like to keep in mind if we do decide to pursue the lactation space inside of the library or any other larger projects. So, and we had Helen had sent me information on that last year in regard to this office space, but we had already started the project.
Right. And that's why I'm wanting to suggest that if we have something in the pipeline or even are just starting to think about it, it would be a good idea to not let it set aside if the deadline, if they see that the deadline might be June the 31st, I guess, end of June, I think was the date. Well, that's my report. And so Amanda, it's yours.
Thank you so much for commenting on our awesome attendance this year at ALS programs. I think Grand Marais does in general have very good attendance, especially the directors / Compass meeting, which does a lot with our technology. And then Erica attends all of the children's services meetings. So that racks up quite a bit of points. But this year in particular, I have an assistant director whom I've been having tail me everywhere that I can get her in. And so that does add extra attendance. And as well, I was able to send, I believe we had 3 people registered for bookbinding instruction.
Excellent.
And so I'm just making sure that everybody on staff is getting a chance to get some education. Especially since we don't have to travel. That has been huge. Everything's virtual. Yeah. For reopening conversation, I would just say that in the last month, I have worked with staff to test patrons using the library by appointment. So we have interviewed and worked with just 2 people from the community to kind of feel out what that would be like. I think we can do it fairly safely and just quite a lot like our computer by appointment, where we would just have one person or 2 people from the same household, sort of an appointment at a time, just like we do computers by appointment for about 30 minutes. You wouldn't be able to get more than about 8 people through the library for that in a day. And I think that's more than enough. So again, we're just testing what that looks like. I would like to wait out the holidays and see what happens to our case count. And with an estimated timeline of perhaps mid-January to do this low-key two people from a household appointment at a time. So we would have two people browsing, two people on the computer. And just to put this a little bit in perspective, even though we do have computers by appointment, we're seeing, say, 3 to 7 appointments during a week. So it's been a very low requested service, and it's great that we can offer the flexibility for everyone and their needs.
Good.
I'm just browsing through my director's report, seeing if there's anything else I want to call attention to. This is just a tiny note that I'll bring up again in the future. For our strategic planning process, our strategic plan goes through 2022. And so what that means is 2021 is a planning to plan year. 2021 is when we figure out which consultant we want to use, how we're going to meet with the community. And so that 2022, we execute the timeline, the actual strategic planning process, and then we have a plan in place for 2023. I'm just bringing this to your attention because I did have the thought that we're going to have a completely new board. We're going to have just the continued changes impressed by COVID-19. You might want to think about pushing it out, just extend the strategic plan that we have by a year and push it out by 1 year and see if we can get some board experience before we start doing that. You don't have to decide today, I'm just letting you know in advance. And unless you have questions for me, that's my report.
Any questions for Amanda?
I don't have any questions, but I think that's, well, I greatly appreciate your efforts at testing how operations would go on that scheduled visitation. And I really appreciate you taking it slow and measured. Speaks volumes to the organization and your leadership there. As a correlation, maybe, our county is pretty unique in the COVID case count. Maybe everyone's aware of that, but I don't think there's another county in the state that can still do contact tracing because the numbers are just so high that they just had to throw in the towel. But because of our, well, maybe not because of our precautions, but for whatever reason, and I think precautions certainly help, we are still able to do contact tracing, and I feel like we're doing a very, very good job as a community at controlling the spread. So just wanted to thank you for your efforts on that end. And I guess that no questions, I guess. Thank you though.
Thank you, Dave. That's very well said. It's good to know how the commissioners are responding and how they're thinking. Sometimes we get the idea that everybody wants everything open and going slow, and the way that you've encouraged Amanda and the library, it's a good feedback for the community, anyone who's listening to this other than the 5 or 6 of us. That would, so thank you. Going on, committee reports there are no reports. The Personnel Committee is, Chris and I have been working, and we've been encouraging some input from Jay and waiting for him to call our meeting. We've got lots of things we want to say about Amanda, so we need an opportunity. I'm speaking for myself, Chris, but I think maybe you would say the same. Yeah. And then the communications, Amanda, do you have something you want to comment in regard to that?
Don't need to draw anything out unless you have a question.
Okay. Unless I hear a question then. What do we have?
Helen, I would like to hop back for just a second and say the Personnel Committee, at least two of the Personnel Committee, are trying very hard to get that meeting together so that Amanda can have some feedback before you're off the board at the end of December. So I just wanted you to know, Amanda, that we're trying, but we have to have a third person, and he's very overwhelmed with other things right now, from what I can tell. So it's not that we've been ignoring you, just so you know.
No, thank you very much. Out of
Yeah.
curiosity, do you have to have the third person?
Well,
I don't know the rules.
I wonder if,
So-
I'm just trying to be helpful for all of you. I wonder if that person would be willing to delegate authority or to,
well,
you know,
I think we're at the point where we need to ask him that question. So I did ask him this past week if there was anything we could do to facilitate, to help, to, to write drafts. I mean, both of us have written drafts, but I have not heard back yet. So
okay,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're trying.
thank you.
is there a possibility that if it were Chris and me meeting, is there our next step would be to meet with you, and so
Right.
that our to do that, would you have a Zoom with us?
Mhm.
Okay, and so she and I have we have a step that can be taken if it falls to us to do it, and that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, I want to be cautious not to overstep my territory into the board's business.
Right.
But at the same time, my understanding is that the committees exist so that work can be done outside of the board meeting in preparation for it. And that
Yeah.
ultimately the entire board is responsible for the work of the committees. So
Yes.
it almost, David, does this seem reasonable of a line of thought that, like, if the finance committee did some work, they would present it to the board that they're ready to go? Or I don't know, I'm just
Well, our committee, the personnel committee's responsibility is to come to an observation and then bring that observation to you and go over that with you, not with the board. In other words,
I think what I'm saying is if the committee is not functioning as it should, the entire board could be included in the process so the process could proceed. That's my perception.
I see.
and that
Huh.
and it is with the board the size that it is, we could just have a closed meeting and discuss it with you, and that would be, but then that wouldn't be a board meeting. That would be just a personnel meeting in which all members of the board would be invited for the discussion.
I think that's called executive session.
So as an example, with the finance committee, not all three members were able to attend, and so two of us would attend. This was in the past when Steve was here, and then we would just summarize with the third to make sure that the third was in the loop. So if two members of the personnel committee would like to move forward and the third is unable due to scheduling or what have you, I think just keeping the third member in the loop and getting feedback from the third member before, say, feedback to Amanda, I think that would be appropriate and adequate. As far as involving the whole library board, I'm less comfortable with that.
Well, whenever the personnel committee does the evaluation, they do come back to the board and informs them. And it's
That's
usually
what's written now.
she
Yeah.
has. Yeah, but the one step that hasn't been done to my knowledge is that the board gets an opportunity to do input into, like, for instance, the personnel committee could just solicit comments from other members of the board, and that could go to, you know, their observations, that could go. But I think perhaps it hasn't been done because the attitudes toward are fairly well known because of comments that have taken place during board meetings, and therefore those people who are on the personnel committee then have some idea of how the personnel committee, board members other than personnel committee members know what kind of observations that others have made. I still have some problem with the personnel committee without someone to call the meeting and to have a means by which the meeting can take place. I don't want to walk out of the board meeting tonight thinking I need to do something that I neither know how to do or how to arrange to do. And so that's the reason why I'm asking, can Amanda do a Zoom meeting? Of course, she's the object of the meeting, but she could get us together so we could talk. And we can send her our observations and she can read those before we meet. And Dave, I don't know if you find that to be a problem or not, or Amanda, whether you feel uncomfortable that you're pushing into the library board. We need a way of facilitating a discussion with you, with Amanda.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's fair. And you know, it's good to be as professional and formal in these matters. But I think if a third member is not able to be a part of the discussions, then it could be as simple as two members having a phone call.
Okay.
It won't be recorded. It won't be. You don't need the video aspect of it.
Okay. Good.
And I mean, it isn't a public meeting, you know.
No, it
and
isn't
then
a public
and,
meeting. Well,
and then after the two
Let me
members
finish.
have their conversation, then if they wanted to kind of bounce that off of the third member, kind of get that preliminary feedback, and then, as you say, bring all of that back to the board. That seems like the most formal way to go about that. But how do you feel about that?
I'm having trouble bringing everything to the board for a general discussion of it. If we don't have it by Zoom, and if it's a personnel issue, I don't think it should be recorded for the public. And it's very hard for Chris and me to have a phone conversation that we can cover all of the issues that we have. I mean, it's not a small document that we produce.
I don't know how in-depth we need to produce a document. Helen and I have different approaches to this a little bit. And there are also a problem of the city has its own review, and then the library has its review practice. And we were both operating off different review sheets for a while. So I think if we pick out a good number, we'll say we'll have 4 or we'll have 5 or we'll have 6 items that we want to cover with her, and then go from there. We can do that by a phone call. And I think that we need to get this done before the end of December. So,
And for
I'm
you,
at
it
Mayo as
should
a-
be, and for you, because of your schedule, it should be when?
it has to be next week because I have a day and then I'm gone to Mayo. So, I won't be here.
Okay. And the library.
Early next week.
Okay, so it would be, and Amanda, do you think that a phone call with, if you got a copy of the information prior to that, do you think that that would be a discussion?
Google meeting or you like Zoom better? I can send a Zoom. Super easy. That part's
Would
not,
be
yeah,
good.
how we facilitate us meeting, I don't think is going to be as big of a problem as just you guys feeling comfortable that you have group support to move forward with delivering the information.
Okay. Then do you, Chris, I will make myself available whenever you can do it early next week. And so
Okay,
then,
I will.
Oh.
I missed the part as to why Jay is not here today, and that's not what I'm wondering. But what I'm wondering is, do you think it's going to be possible to get in touch with Jay to say, we'd like to meet on Monday, or we'd like to meet on Tuesday at X o'clock. If you can join us, that would be great. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead, basically. Is that
Well,
going to be possible for me to do
I think
once you and I decide on a time?
I think you
with
should set
Amanda?
the date. I think you should set the date, and then I think we should reach out to Jay and let him know what the situation is and how that it appears that we can move forward if he doesn't have time
Okay.
to contribute.
Okay, that sounds really good. I will look at my calendar and get that figured out. And my apologies to Sue, who doesn't have a whole lot to do with this, who has to sit through this meeting, but I think this is good and we're pulling together. So, okay, I will do that and get that out.
I think Sue will appreciate hearing all of the nitty gritty here whenever she gets to work with it. I think it will all fit. I think it will be part of her background for how to go through this. And I know that the first year that I was on the board, I wasn't on any kind of committee, and it was good to do a lot of watching and listening and picking up. So I think that's why Amanda is suggesting that the board have a year before, just getting to know and seeing how things work before they go into trying to do a strategic plan. So, okay, we have that. I'm glad to have this discussion. I wish we had, that we could have discussed it at the board at a previous meeting, but I'm glad. I feel good. I think I'm ready to talk to you, Chris.
Okay, good. Right.
And there is, under new business, a committee to prepare a slate of officers. I would propose that that be set aside until you have more people that you have as members of the board. Dave, you've been here quite a while. What would you say about preparing a slate of officers? We have 4 people that could be approached as to what they might want as an office that they might want. But here again, there could be someone who didn't want an office. So we really don't have enough to carry all the offices at the current time. I know when Linda Chappelle was here that very often the work of the secretary was done by someone, a representative from the library that would come to the meeting and do them.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, so that office is sometimes not a board member. I mean, from my experience, I know that to be the case.
I think technically it is a board member. It's just the recording duties are delegated to someone else.
What's the nuance there?
Bylaws.
Yeah, bylaws, the rules, just the delegation of like tasks, basically. But
Okay.
you know, in the hierarchy, you know, you've got the chair, the vice chair, and treasurer, and so say if things shift, then everyone moves up a notch or whatever. So the slate is important, but just that the actual tasks can be delegated.
Okay.
But you know, the running joke is if someone's absent, then you make them the president or the chair. So it might be appropriate just to run with that right now.
Well, Amanda's running for president, I think. I don't mean at the board, but the campus group appointed her as secretary. I'm not sure that was in the literature that she sent out, but I did find that out at the ALS meeting. And yours truly now has a position with ALS, which I don't think is a foothold going someplace, though. And I never thought of the offices as being footholds for the next office. And although, well, I can see how it could be, but I never thought of it that way. And it's interesting that that seems to be the classic, Dave, that what you've just presented to us. So, well, if anyone wishes to suggest a committee to prepare a slate of officers, I would be open to that, or I would be open to someone other than myself commenting about whether it should be held off until a later board meeting. Anybody?
Well, yeah, our participation is low. Our membership is low at the moment, but we do need to still take care of business, and we can delay, or I'm very comfortable recommending a slate this evening as well.
Delaying is not going to help, I don't believe, because then we won't have the officers in place to run the meeting in January. So I think we need to do something tonight. If possible.
Okay. The officers can be elected from the floor in January.
I see.
True. Yeah, and I'm comfortable with that too.
Somebody pull us together. Yep.
I have
Okay.
heard,
Well, maybe
I did hear from Jay, who for some time filled 2 positions this year, both president and secretary, that he would prefer not to take the presidential role in the next year, if I can offer that insight.
Okay. That is helpful. He is a wonderful secretary. And the way that Jay likes to attend to a meeting is if he is recording it, he stays on task. This is something I have observed over 6 years of working with him. So I think that that's a very, he was secretary and excellent for very, very many years. But with that in mind, with the new people, surely we will have more than the 4 of us, you know, and 5 with Jay by the January end of the month meeting. And then you might have a young whippersnapper that comes in that wants to be right off the top, you know, can't tell.
Well, and to be honest, I'm hoping that I will know more about my conditions at the end of the week, so that I would be able to either say, yes, let me do something, or no, probably not, after that in January, but not yet. So.
Okay. Yeah, we can wait. I'm comfortable with that as well.
Well,
okay. Well, let's all think about what we want to do then. and come prepared for that. Yep.
For January. Okay. Well, thank
Yep.
you. I
Thank
think
you.
that's the best decision, and I'm not going to take a roll call on it because it's just an item of an item that is not ready to be hatched, I think is really what I want to say. If there's no other business, then I will call the meeting.
Oh, well, there was the one item and this is really just, yeah, it's really not
Go
a
ahead.
big deal. And there's so few of us here that I don't know if it's even relevant, but just in the past, the recent past, I was on the Parks and Trails Commission, and that meeting conflicts with the library board's meeting. And so I was trying to finagle a way to be able to attend both of those, which failed because of my lack of organization, really. But what I was fishing for here is just if there's flexibility on the board members' part in the upcoming year, or if this particular time slot is where everyone wants
No.
it exactly, or
It's
okay.
awful.
No,
Oh, okay, good.
it's really
Okay,
not
thank you.
good.
Okay, thank you. Well, that helps a lot. Just knowing that. I don't need to know any specifics, but just knowing that there's a good chance we can change the time and day.
Please.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
great.
Dinner
Yeah,
time
okay.
just is not a good time to have a meeting.
Yeah,
So,
and it's tricky. It's
thank
tricky
you.
because we often want the library to be closed, right? So, well,
Right.
because we used to meet in the library, and I guess that doesn't have to be the case. But I guess for staff's part, maybe during business hours would be better, or we can just feel it out in the upcoming year here, I guess. But I was just fishing for flexibility, and it looks like we've got it. So.
Well, one thing I want to put in here, though, is that flexibility alternating from time to time. The calendar is posted for the meetings of the library board, and I don't know if you can change from one month to the next, unless, or perhaps there is a procedure to change from one month to the next. Is that what you're asking, Dave? To be flexible in that way?
No,
Okay.
it's more into setting the schedule. I'm not saying from month to month. I'm just saying to a different day, time, scenario, and then would be consistent for the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it would be, okay. And I think
It's
that
just
that probably work. That would be the best scenario as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank you, Dave,
I apologize
very
because
much.
it was. Oh yeah, well I apologize because I missed last meeting and it was discussed, or at least setting the calendar was discussed there, and so it would have been the opportune time then to bring this up, but because I missed that meeting, then I thought I could have another shot at it. So.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, good luck to you all.
To have that, I'm sorry, Helen. Does everyone want to see that on the next agenda for January?
Yes, please. The discussion thereof. Yes, please.
Okay.
And the election of officers would be, if you call it election of officers, would be on the agenda. And she's nodding.
Yeah.
No, election of officers. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to attend to?
Well, Helen, are you going to visit at least? I mean, you'll be off the board, but it's a public meeting. You're welcome to attend.
I have been known to do that. I'm also ALS, and I don't meet with ALS except once every 2 months, and so it's. I have been thinking that what I probably will do, if it fits with everyone, I probably show up every couple of months to just do an ALS report. And I realize I would not be voting, but I would probably be around and listen to you. I've done that before. I was liaison for the Library Friends and didn't have a position on the board, as Chris does. But Chris could actually be a Library Friends representative. She could be a trustee here for the
Yeah.
library.
Yep.
And she also could go to ALS and be on ALS. She could do all of those things. And there are people that have positions like that. They are actually board members for their local, and they Friends on Friends board, and they are an ALS trustee as well. So can be done. And Dave, there are people who are on the county, county representatives, and they also are on ALS. So I won't be on ALS as long as some other people have been, because I'm already pushing where stop certainly is, suggesting itself to me. But anyone should be encouraged to that.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to the updates, and I really appreciate your advocacy for the library, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done for us.
Well, thank you very much. And
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed it, and I've cried over it, and I've hung my head over it, and rolled my stomach over it. But I still come up. It all counts. It all counts. And
Yep.
I really wish you all the very, very best. And I'm going to keep pushing for this library. I'll tell you that.
Well, you live
Great.
right next door.
Yes. we want to keep the neighborhood up.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'll move to adjourn then.
Do we have to, do we need to move?
I'll
I'll
move.
second.
I'll move to adjourn.
No.